when I go through the book, it's actually a work which is based on conviction. I don't know whether anybody has told you this, but the book...
First person. I mean, yeah, but the way you say it, everything that you say, Nitin, matters to me. Because we come from the same side of journalism.
Absolutely. And what I like, that line that you use, that there are no two sides to the Bofors story. There's only one side. India.
And that side is India. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're on Strat News Global. I'm Nitin Gokhale. And I'm delighted to be joined by Chitra Subramaniam, who needs actually no introduction. A lot of people say it for record's sake, but someone who's a household name, especially for the generation which grew up in the 80s and 90s. Investigative journalist, dogged, I would say, mother, and someone who feels very strongly about issues of corruption, about India, and someone who's now come up with this book, Bofors Gate, a journalist's pursuit of truth, which is chronicling the entire story of how the Bofors investigation unfolded. She was central figure in it, and the triumphs and tragedy and betrayal all along the way that she has faced. It's wonderful to have this book out finally after so many years, and more delightful to have Chitra in our studio. Thank you very much, Chitra, for finding time and coming here.
Thank you, Nitin. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I have been an admirer of your work, and thank you for this generous introduction. But I do wish to say that there are not too many Nitin Gokhales in this field.
Oh no.
No, seriously.
This is about you, not me.
No, but the domain knowledge you bring to
the
subject is second to none.
Thank you. I'm honored. So, first, very obvious question. What took you so long to come up with this book?
What took me so long to come up with this book? Several things, beginning with raising children. And there's a line in that where Sten Lindström, Sting, says, write a book. So I said, what about? So I didn't realize that, for some time I didn't realize what did I have to say. Everything that I had to say I've already said. But then over the years I began to see that my story had never been said. I mean, you can always write a story about Bofors from the outside in terms of this happened, that happened, that happened. But my story...
what you went through.
What I went through, my own, as you said, triumphs and tribulations and tragedies, those I couldn't say. One. Second part was, I needed some distance from everything. There was moments of sadness, moments of anger, moments of, lot of emotions. Then my encounter with, then I worked for the WHO, so that took a part of my life. Then, cancer graduate, as you said. So at the end of it, I was ready to write this book without fear or favor or without any, I was peaceful.
I'm so glad you've taken that time. So finally, when I look back and when I go through the book, it's actually a work which is based on conviction. I don't know whether anybody has told you this, but the book...
First person. I mean, yeah, but the way you say it, everything that you say, Nitin, matters to me. Because we come from the same side of journalism.
Absolutely. And what I like, that line that you use, that there are no two sides to the Bofors story. There's only one side. India. And
that side is India. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the next question in this then, that now that you've come up with the book, is it some kind of catharsis that you've gone through?
I'm at peace. There's a peacefulness in me. When people walk up to me and say, wow, I didn't write the book for that wow factor. I needed to get lots of things out. And I needed to do this for my family, for my children, and hopefully my grandchildren. I needed them to know that there was this person in their life. Who would go and meet an arms dealer with a baby? I mean, when you say all this, they sort of think, but I wanted to put it down, that there was a circumstance, there was a context. Why did I not get out earlier? So I wanted to put all that down on paper so that one day when they look back at me, they won't think I was crazy or something.
No, you're not crazy. And you need a bit of craziness to do this kind of work anyway. And you spoke about being on the same side of journalism, the same school of journalism, started in the 80s. One of the crises that one faces today, a dilemma, if you may, is the attention spans are reducing, but there is so much to say, so much to tell. Is there enough? Are there enough takers for this kind of a thing? And I sometimes struggle whether we are doing the right thing or not. But when I look at work like this and your body of work over the years, for the last 40 years, then one realizes, no, you're all right. I mean, it's not something that one should be worried about. It may come back. Do you think it will come back, the kind of long form?
Definitely. I think it's coming back. I mean, if you had asked me this question, say 5 years ago, I would have been hesitant. But it is coming back. What may not be coming back as fast is the resources. It's simply because there is so much of nonsense going. The same people who write those 2 pieces quickly get a lot of money.
Yes.
So the kind of resources that go, but it's because people like us don't take bad money, if I may say that, whether it is the News Laundry or the News Minute, or you just because we're very careful what money we take, it will be slightly more difficult. But that's also very commendable. You are credible, and people want to buy your credibility.
Of course.
So we have to hold together, and yes, I think it's coming back.
Well, that's good to know from a fellow traveler in that sense. Let's get back to the Bofors story, the way it started. When it started, perhaps, and as you write here rightly, that you didn't know that this was going to be so big.
Yeah.
It started off as any other story.
Yeah.
And but what kept you going? I mean, of course, the family, I know. But what was the one factor that kept you going despite all the setbacks and pressures? So let's hear that.
The reactions, Nitin, the reactions in India. Had the Prime Minister just said that, let a committee look into this. Okay, there is some Swedish radio story. Let a committee look at it. I mean, if it had been Indira Gandhi, that's what she would have said, no? Why would you go to the parliament and why would you say, I'm not involved? Why on earth would you say that?
A guilty mind would say that.
Guilty mind.
Right?
Correct. And then one has thought that, inexperience, guilt, or somebody put him up to it, jumping up and down. You are the Prime Minister, you've got such a huge mandate. Why are you saying? And then, of course, one thing led to the other. The opposition people, they all flew to Geneva. Rajiv is involved. Then it just got out of control.
Yeah. So, just for the viewers who may not have the context, the younger viewership that we have, we are talking about Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in the period between 1984, December, when he got elected with the huge mandate that you spoke about, and finally had to demit office in 1989 and never came back to power.
Never came back to power. Yeah.
And one of the blame that people see the reason for his downfall is Bofors and Bofors Gate. So you were the central figure in this. Initially, a lot of newspapers, you I think worked with the Hindu, the Indian Express, the Statesman, and everyone was probably playing their own games. But,
yes.
So tell me a little more about that politics, about journalism politics.
Journalism politics was which came also as a shock, because you get into journalism because it's as a public good. You get into it because you feel that when you put pen to paper, it's sacred. People expect you to at least believe what you're writing. And that's how I cultivated the sources. Mr. Sten Lindström, he came, I spoke to him. And then in the beginning, all was okay with Mr. Ram. Mr. Ram had no connections, had no source. I was living there and I connected. Then he started playing around with the documents. The more documents I got, the more I found that they were not being printed. Sitting on something critical like Rajiv Gandhi's name, or something, that famous secret meeting, the tutoring where such high people like Gopi Arora and N.N. Vora and D.K. Bhatnagar, S.K. Bhatnagar, they tell the top Bofors people, say this, say that, don't say this, don't say that, the JPC cannot guarantee. I'm looking at stuff, and don't forget, I'm not a big journalist, I'm also young. I'm saying, oh, my God, these people are gold standard bureaucrats, and they are lying.
That's right.
So, you
that
know,
must have come as a
that was a shock.
Yeah.
Because then, Nitin, where do you go to?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you go to get someone to tell you, okay, Chitra, this is okay? If you can't even trust your bureaucrats, or you can't trust your judiciary,
Sure.
if you can't trust your parliament, politicians leave it, they're different. But then who do you trust?
That's right.
Which is why when you couldn't even trust your own editor, and then the editor starts playing games and then threatens the Prime Minister, then you realized, then who do I trust? Then I trust my source.
Yeah.
So the relationship between the source and me became very strong.
Yeah, so talking about, just again another context, she was talking about Mr. N. Ram, who was then the editor
Yeah.
of The Hindu. But the source, coming to the source, Sten Lindstrom, Sting,
Yeah.
became your go-to man.
Go-to man, yeah.
And I think you acknowledged his daughter was here,
She was here.
at the launch
Yeah.
in the IIC early this week. And so how did that relationship develop?
Between him and Ram?
Yes, no, between you and between you and Sting.
Sting. In the beginning, he was very, he's a man of few words. So it's, I mean, I can't, you know, I can't get much out of him. I mean, I would say, I knew he had documents to give me,
Right.
but he wouldn't give me. You know, he made me go round and round, and at one point I said, listen, if you're not going to help me, you're with the bad guys. Because he's a very, very circumspect and very...
A police investigator, basically.
police. And then he had done the search and seize, and he'd met everybody, Martin Ardbo. He had the documents. So then when he took me to his office, and I saw these troves and troves of documents, I said, it's like a child in a sweet shop.
Sweet shop, yeah, exactly.
So I took quickly what I needed to take. And that relationship has always been very precious. In fact, yesterday, at the launch, he wrote a little note for me, and it was very emotional. We continue to be very, very close, because it's the story of two families.
Sure. He would have also suffered. He would have
suffered. He took risks, great risks, which is why outing his name in Delhi.
30 years later.
No, at first, and outing his name in Delhi without printing that AE services. I mean, N. Ram, I don't know who did,
Yeah.
because only I told the name to Mr. N. Ram. But how was his name circulating in Delhi? So everyone knew, you know. And Mr. Arun Nehru tells me he didn't know Mr. Martin Ardbo. Mr. Martin Ardbo is the chief negotiator from Bofors. So then I told him, Mr. Arun Nehru, Mr. Martin Ardbo knows you. Look at the documents. So I was discovering that I was...
You were peeling the onion, actually.
Yeah, but I was cutting my teeth on investigative journalism. Nitin.
Sure.
I was also cutting my teeth as a mother.
Yes.
You
And
know?
that parallel journey.
Something else. I mean, I don't want to show off, but it was not easy. The children say, why did you, you know, I mean, they can ask me, why did you not give up? But I couldn't give up.
That's right.
Couldn't give up.
Because, again, the training that you had. So,
Yeah, and also I could have stopped when the documents, when the government fell.
yes.
But my job was not over.
Correct. Because you had not traced the money.
I had to go till the end.
Right.
And my job, I thought, ended when the boxes came. Box came
Boxes,
to box.
yeah, one box,
And now
yeah.
they are planting a story about boxes. So again, the thing starts. You know, there was a very nice piece by Manu Josephine,
Yeah,
you know, about truth and honesty, and we need to bring back a sense of shame.
Right.
You know, the sense of shame.
Correct.
It's not saying name and shame. We need to bring back what it means to be shamed. You know?
That's right, yeah. And if you compare, the atmosphere in those years when the Bofors story broke, the Congress party was so dominant in the parliament, in the
They
country.
had everything.
They had
They could have
everything.
done everything.
Exactly.
And then he fell for such a small thing. You know, he even lied to his friend.
Arun Singh.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? And when this meeting took place, this tutor meeting,
Yes.
they didn't invite General Sundarji. So they used everybody, so much destruction. I mean, you come from, you know, your knowledge, your background. Imagine you're all running around the same story, and one person knows this, one person knows that. They managed to create doubt
That's right. And sort of smokes and mirror.
in everybody's mind.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I know that when you want to meet me, I'll anytime, Nitin.
That's right.
Because that's your credibility.
Absolutely.
And
Transparency.
Transparency,
basically.
you know.
Exactly.
And if you can't, you must have a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
But that entire sense of shame was taken away. Everything was gone. So when you asked me earlier that can we build it back, I said yes, because I believe human beings are good people.
Yes. Basically, they are all good
They are
people.
all good people.
Circumstances
Yeah,
or
there are
greed
no good,
can make them.
there are no good and bad people. There are circumstances.
Circumstances. Exactly.
You
No,
know?
I agree.
And it's a
completely.
question of respecting that and not thinking that you're better than everybody
That's
else.
right. So now, when you see and look at the box, why do you think it wasn't open when it came in 1997? Have you ever found any answer to that?
Because I'm happy you asked this question. I went to the ceremony, lifted it. It's quite heavy.
Yes.
The reason I don't believe it's opened is because several things. One is that it was such a big case. I mean, as you say, a government fell, and Mr. Joginder Singh came to
The
collect.
CBI director.
The CBI director came to collect. He's a very mediatic person. He would not have gone and sat in a corner and opened it by himself and given it to a court. I think it would have been a very big media event. Set that aside.
Right.
Set that aside. But I know for a fact that a lot of things happen in the court. After all, it was a 10-year court battle.
Right.
So the box will tell us what happened in the courts, because the Swiss law was modified because of my work.
Right.
Why was it modified? At whose behest? So there is a lot of information. Even if you say you don't know more about corruption, there'll be a lot of information on that about India's fight. You know,
That's
it's not just money. It'll show us. And the car, the arms dealer, he tells me it's 12%. In that tuition document, it's 18.5%. Are you saying that India's worth is 3%?
Exactly.
Doesn't work like that.
That's right. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
for 3%.
Why would they, do that? But let me take a break here at this point and come back for more from Chitra Subramaniam. Household name, like I said, for those who were active in the 80s and the 90s, investigative journalist, of the highest order, and someone who has been now looked upon as a legend in that field. I'll come back. Don't go away.
मन में वो पायरेट्स ऑफ द कैरिबियन का म्यूजिक आ रहा है.
Pay attention. Today we have received intel regarding poaching activities in our area. We are going to intercept the boat and apprehend the culprits. Am I clear? Yes, sir. How's the Josh? Yes, sir. Let's go. Take post. One, two, three, four, five,
Welcome back. I'm in conversation with Chitra Subramaniam, Bofors journalist, if you want to call her that. But Chitra, seriously, at some point in time, not at one point in time, but at some point in time, did you ever feel threatened, overwhelmed, or willing to give up?
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. All of that. Threatened, yes, as I say.
In the
Threats
book,
to
yes.
my
Yes.
to my child, threats to my life, threats to my marriage, all of that. Overwhelmed, yes, because then Nikhil had arrived and I was very tired, very, very tired. And the third thing was what? Fed up.
Fed up.
When I was very fed up one day, it was Giancarlo who said that you can't stop. I mean, you can't just stop midstream. You have to go to the end.
Right.
So, and then how would you live with yourself?
Right.
This whole thing about you tell your children it's okay to be corrupt but don't get caught. This whole thing became personal.
Yes.
And you can't separate the two in a house.
That's true.
And somehow raising the child or raising my children became as critical to me following the Bofors thing. I hope I can explain this properly.
Yes, please.
I was raising children. And then how could I quietly say, Nani, I've made compromises on Bofors,
You didn't want them to feel that you have
to find
compromised.
out that, I didn't want them to grow up and say, then why did you drop that story? But then they can say the both ways, that why did you continue while we
Yeah,
were there?
exactly.
So I had to be truthful to myself
Right.
as a mother, and I had to be truthful to the story. And you can argue that which comes first, and I don't have an answer. I don't have an
That's
answer.
fine. Some questions don't have answers.
And I say this to all the women today, that there will not be any magic wand.
Right.
No, you will
You have to find your own way every
and
time.
it will not be easy. Then any woman who says it's easy
Right.
is being dishonest.
That's true. I'm sure, because one sees, all around
It's
us,
not easy.
this
It's
balancing
not easy.
career and,
the labor
family
market
and
will never understand, and still not understood, whether it is in Scandinavia or wherever. The labor market does not understand the importance of women as child givers and child nurturers. There is still a huge gap.
True.
And and daughter is married. I have a wonderful son-in-law, and it's not saying how wonderful he is. It's not the lack of being wonderful. It's just that there is so much disproportionate responsibility on the woman.
On the women, yeah.
And my son and daughter argue. He says, no, it's not true. But it is true.
I can understand that,
You know?
what you're saying. But what gave you strength? I know you start very delightfully the book about you and Carlo meeting in the US.
Yeah.
And the kind of courtship that you had.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got married.
Yeah.
So what gave you strength?
Hanuman Chalisa.
Really?
I recite it. No, I talk about it.
No, you do, but explain.
This when Agastya Muni says, no, tado yuddha parishrantam samare chintayasthitam.
Sure.
When you go to battle,
Right.
that Aditya Hridayam Punyam Sarvashatru Vinasanam Jayavagam Jabe Nityam Akshayam Paramam Sivam. And I recite this all the time, all the time, all the time. Because when I was young, my mother was religious. And I'm spiritual, and I had to stand outside because she wouldn't touch me. I needed her to plait my hair, and a school bus would come.
Yeah.
And I was so certain I'd miss the bus. So I learned all this. It is मेरे ज़हन में है.
Bilkul. It starts at the family, in the childhood only.
In the childhood,
Yes.
whether it is Suprabhatam or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
So at one point, it was that kind of a fight for me. It was that kind of a fight.
True.
It became like that, And I take this properly. I was taking India with me. I mean, I'm a small person, okay.
Doesn't
I'm
matter.
not-
But if
I'm
you're
not somebody
putting
big.
India first, I think that also gives you strength.
Yeah.
And
And
that's-
then when I was very scared, I would say, Bhoot pisach nikat nahi aave, Mahavir
Wow.
javanab sunave. And when I was scared for the second time when I had my stem cell, I was terrified because it was touch and go.
That's right.
So I would look at this thing and say, Bhoot pisach nikat nahi aave. You know, so I don't want people to think that I'm some kind of why not? I am a born Hindu and I have Hindu traditions inside me. So I felt my faith come to my rescue.
Which is perfectly all right
Yeah,
to say.
my faith came to my rescue. And you know, when you go to Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetra, it was the Kurukshetra,
exactly.
you know.
That's right.
And we had been lied to. So how can I, in my own small way, fight the battle? And there's another point I want to make, since you are in the defense, a very well-known defense correspondent. You have soldiers fighting at minus 50 or 40.
True.
And what is all this mazhab and, you know, tumhare liye? It's not Hollywood type of Bollywood singing. You know, you don't, you know, tere mitti and all that. No, seriously,
Yeah, I
people
know.
are dying.
Yeah, I know. No, these days it's become all commercial and all show off, basically.
I have Fauji family. My uncle was in the prisoner of war in Japan for 7 years. People are dying for
Yes,
you.
yeah, exactly.
And you have betrayed them.
Exactly. And the irony is the gun is so
good.
So good. I witnessed it in
Yes,
Kargil
you saw
because I
that,
reported Kargil.
Gun is good. The price was good. And I mean, look at try to understand what I went through, you know.
True.
So when I watched those Bollywood songs, I want to throw up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That completely artificial, I would think that way. But you know, one crucial question which most people don't know, there was one Mr. Q who was involved here. Tell us a little more about that and how was the reaction there?
There, Mr. Q was a political payment because Sten didn't know who Q was. Sten didn't know that who Q was related to or
Right.
his closeness to the Gandhi family. So when Q's name came up, the Q negotiations were held only by Martin Adbo.
Okay.
Maybe your people should know who Martin
Yes,
Adbo
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So Martin Adbo was the top negotiator for
Bofors company.
He held all the things. So the other two contracts with Vin Chadda and Mr. Hinduja were negotiated by, not by Mr. Martin
Not by
Adbo.
Martin,
It was Hans Eglom.
yeah.
So that was held very close to his chest. Every piece of paper, everything, and it was a political payment. So ask Mr. Sten Lindström, what is a political payment? So he said the political payment is the person who comes in the end,
Right.
when all the numbers are on the table, and then he takes this much.
Yeah.
And
For
nobody can-
facilitating.
No, for winning the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
To winning the,
around
facilitating the
finance.
contract.
The others are the one running around.
Yes.
And this person can take any amount and nobody can say anything to him. And that was Mr. Q.
That's right.
Now, Nitin, who can be so powerful? The negotiations have been going on for 10 years.
Exactly.
So that is where he says Q's closeness to R
In the diary, he says that,
is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was Ottavio Quattro, okay, who was an accountant working for Stampo Getty.
Sure.
Had nothing to do with the arms industry, and then his account was unfrozen for a small period, and he took his
He
7
took it away. That's what. So, how has the Gandhi family got away with it, or how have they reacted to it over the years with you, if at all?
I've had no contact with the Gandhi.
Okay.
You know.
And how did they continue to react? Because I read somewhere that even the Vajpayee government did not sort of pursue
No,
the
they did not
Bofors
pursue.
investigation as vigorously as they should have. What's the matter there?
I was told by Mr. George Fernandez that he was told by Mr. Brijesh Mishra not to open the box.
Oh.
And
okay.
this was, I had met George Fernandez ji in 1999, and the box had come in 1997.
He was the defense minister by then, yeah.
So when Mr. VP Singh came, I had told him, oh, Mr. VP Singh. And then Mr. Sten told me that Chitra, there are wheels within wheels. You know? And he had seen that in his own country, in the Social Democrats and all that.
Right.
So,
Ironically, both the main protagonists, Rajiv Gandhi and the Swedish Prime Minister, Palme?
Olof Palme.
Olof Palme, both were assassinated. Such is the irony of life in that sense. I mean, they had nothing to do with each other except for whatever their meeting had taken place. But did you ever come across Olaf Palme, or he was much before your
No, I met him at the
began?
human rights thing in
Right.
Geneva. He used to
Okay.
come and give big speeches
Mhm.
as to how we should have disarmament and all
Right.
that. No, I never met him personally.
Okay. You only saw
Neither
him
have
there.
I met Mr. Gandhi personally.
Yeah. So now, what's the, so as a final thought from you, where do you think this should go?
This should go to its logical conclusion. We need to bring up younger journalists who should pursue.
Yeah.
Younger people should ask the questions. It's not just before, it's a systemic decay. You know, we should ask them to look at the systemic decay, that if you don't address something like this quickly, this can what it lead to. That's what the Sundarji interview says.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
and
yeah.
and putting things back will take years. So let's try and pull things back.
Right. In fact, there was this, thought by some people about how your investigation actually affected India's defense
Defense, yeah,
procurements.
yeah.
Do you have anything to say to that?
No, I don't, because that was not what I was doing. If it affected that, then that shows how bad the system is.
System, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
if telling the truth makes it difficult, then imagine.
So the mindset that people had, that anything, and then everyone started becoming extra cautious, overcautious in procurement. Bofors ho jayega.
Bofors ho jayega, which is very sad.
Yeah. So fortunately, things have improved now. Procurement is becoming a little more quicker and then transparent because of the new procedures that have been put in place. But without Bofors, let me tell you as a concluding thought, we wouldn't know what investigative journalism really is. And thank you for doing that and writing this book.
Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
doing
being
what
here.
you are doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm my honor, and it's a pleasure to host you here. So keep watching Strat News Global. This is something you will find only on our channel. A frank and a warm conversation between two old timers and someone, like I said, is held in such high esteem by almost all of us who have lived through those times. So do send your feedback. Your comments are precious. And of course, keep subscribing to our social media handles. We will come with more of such conversations. Until the next time, it's goodbye.